Hi. My name is Deb Stoll. I have been in 4J Nutrition Services for 14 years. I'm a food service coordinator, and I've been asked by some of my peers to speak today. I do not presume to speak for all of the coordinators or nutrition service workers, but please know that many contributed and assisted with this statement and share my views. This has been a rough year for 4J nutrition service workers. Sodexo is only as strong as the managers they provide. There is consistent transition with management. Sometimes they have a great team, sometimes not good at all. Currently, Sodexo does not communicate well, provide leadership, guidance, or adequate support to the kitchens. Morale is very low. 1.8 million meals were served at 36 sites in the year 2017 and 18. We feed kids. We have a direct connection with these students. This is our passion. We do the best that we can with what we are given. We are Team Eugene, and we want what is best for our students. We would like to have a management team that shares our passion and helps us be the best we can be. Working together with a shared focus, our students will reap the benefits. We can make nearly 2 million better meals next year. Working with a management that does not have students on their priority list just does not make sense. Of the 3 options you are considering today, we are confident that self-op is the correct choice. It will allow us flexibility what we currently do not have with Sodexo model. We have experienced, knowledgeable, and dedicated caring workers in 4J Nutrition that will help make this transition to self-op go smoothly. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks for all that you do for our kids and the rest. Carrie Frazier, followed by Erin Pasternak.
Hi.
Carrie.
Carrie with Kid Food Matters. We're here tonight in support of self-operating our nutrition services program as of July 1st. We believe operating the program in-house is the best option to ensure our students' best interests are the top priority. While we recognize there are many factors to consider and the issue of school food is complex, we believe that each school meal is an opportunity to strengthen bodies and minds, introduce habits that promote healthy eating for life, and deepen students' understanding of food and how it is grown. We also believe school meal programs paired with education have the potential to profoundly impact issues related to public health, academic performance, economics, social justice, the environment, and community well-being. Unfortunately, profit, not health, is the priority of food service management companies. Healthy food is an essential building block for a full life. But right now, we've got a generation of children that is overweight, vulnerable to diet-related disease, and more likely to suffer from a variety of health problems that will hold them back. Recent studies have concluded that students with increased fruit and vegetable intake are less likely to fail standardized literacy assessments. And healthy kids perform better on tests, have more focus in class, behave better, and have less absenteeism. There is also growing research suggesting that nutrition affects our mental health. In a study of 120 children and adolescents, consuming fast food, sugar, and soft drinks was associated with a higher prevalence of diagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. The study also found that children who ate fewer vegetables, fruit, fatty fish, and other foods associated with the Mediterranean diet were more likely to have ADHD symptoms. These studies suggest that diet plays a role in ADHD's development. And there was other studies I was going to mention about mental health, children, and diet, but I'm going to move on because what we feed our children matters. We are grateful to Holly Langen for her tireless work to provide the board with information necessary to make an informed decision about the future of nutrition services. We recognize that the transition to healthier scratch-made meals won't happen immediately. Therefore, Kid Food Matters hopes to work in partnership with the district to formalize a long-term vision and plan. Let's put the focus on quality, nutrition, and satisfaction rather than allowing profit to be the main driver. Thank you.
Carrie.
Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate it. Erin, followed by Rowan Madar. Hi. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks again. I'm back. I just wanted to say from the last meeting, my family moved here, and we could have moved anywhere in the country. And we actually chose Eugene, Oregon because of this beautiful environment and the outdoor activities and the beautiful, wonderful, friendly people. And we really we're excited about that. And we, got here and I said before, I was really shocked that an environment like this is feeding the children at school industrial, highly processed food. It just doesn't fit. Personally, I've been feeding my kids at home breakfast and pack them a lunch since kindergarten, so this is not for me. This is for the 14,000 or more students that some of them have to eat 2 out of their 3 meals a day at school. That's 360 meals a year that are negatively affecting their gut microbiome. And there is increasing evidence that really shows that the gut microbiome is so severely affected and damaged by this kind of food. So if you don't know, your serotonin and other hormones are made in your gut microbiome. So when your gut microbiome is damaged, it results in emotional issues, mental health issues, behavioral issues, and I see that kind of thing is on the rise in 4J and also around the country. So we have the power to change that. I'll just tell you a quick story. I am a certified health coach. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and my 7th grade cousin a few years ago was having so much trouble that he would not go to school. He had social anxiety and was angry all the time and physically fought with his parents and was not at school most of the year for 2 years. I worked with him on a gut, and that cost the school a lot of money, right? I worked with him on a gut healing protocol, and he's now a happy 9th grader going to school every day. So this will save the school money, and I really hope that you will vote on self-operation. So,
Great,
thank you.
thanks. Rowan, followed by Jim Wilcox.
Hi, my name is Rowan Mader. I am from Camas Ridge Elementary School, and when I got up this morning, I wasn't planning on being here talking to you about school lunches, but it's an important matter because those are the lunches that I eat every day that I go to school. And school lunches are bad. They taste bad, processed food, they're poor quality, and they don't make us feel good, like stomach aches and diarrhea. For example, like on Friday, we have cheeseburgers. Well, the meat, it tastes like chalk, and the cheese looks like plastic, and it's chewy. And then we have green beans that are canned, and they're slimy. And at home, when we get canned green beans, which we don't very often, they aren't slimy. They're nice and crunchy and stuff. But at school, they're slimy. And then there's corn dogs, which aren't usually healthy. But at 7-Eleven, you could get a pretty good corn dog. But at school, they're not good corn dogs like 7-Eleven has. So why are the corn dogs at school worse than the ones at 7-Eleven? And I've noticed that students, including me, we don't eat because we don't like the food there. And so if you don't eat, then you're hungry. And if you're hungry, then you can't concentrate. And then you can't do your best in school. So if the point of school lunch is to feed the kids, and the kids don't eat it because it's not good, then school lunches are failing to serve their purpose. Thank you.
Thanks, Rowan. Really appreciate it.
I'm Jim Wilcox, and I don't come here very often to talk to the board, but I was here in 2004, and I don't think anybody was here then, but maybe Jim, you might have been here at that time. And I was with Stand for Children, and we were against the pop machines that were in the schools, and the cost was the factor that we can't get rid of these pop machines because we're going to lose money. Well, the school board stood up and said, we can make this happen. We can take a chance on losing the revenue because we believe in protecting the health of the kids. And I think that's the same question today. I rise in support of self-operation because I think self-operation allows the school to provide a healthy meal for the kids. I worked in the school district. I sat with kids and ate with them, and I was really surprised. Now, I'm not against junk food. I'll eat a corn dog once or twice a year, but not 3 or 4 a week. I'll eat a slice of cheese, pizza or whatever once or twice a month, but not 3 or 4 times a week. And I'll eat a chicken nugget. Actually, I wouldn't eat a chicken nugget. So this is the food that the kids are being fed, and it scares me. It scares me because it's part of the larger issue, and part of the challenge you've got is not just where we are today as far as our schools, but the larger cultural aspect of our nutrition in our society. And I've seen kids pick up weight just in a year that I was working with the district. And I think that it takes a lot of fortitude. You know, Kennedy said, we don't do things here because they're easy, we do things because they're hard. And it's hard to make that decision and to make these and take these chances and say, let's try a different operation. That's why I support self-operation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Stephen, followed by Joey Carlson.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm Stephen Wooten. I live at 2340 Van Buren Street. I'm a parent of 2 children in the 4J school district. I'm also a professor at the University of Oregon in the Department of International Studies and Anthropology, and my favorite role at the University of Oregon is the director of the Food Studies program. The Food Studies program at the University of Oregon is really a cutting-edge innovation, and it serves undergraduate students and graduate students in trying to help everybody kind of figure out the importance of food in our lives, from nutrition to kind of social and cultural and economic issues and environmental issues. And what I want to do today is 3 things. I want to first offer my appreciation for the board in the efforts that you guys have been making over the years to try to figure out a better way to feed children in the 4J school district. So I honor you, and I appreciate the things that you've been doing, and I appreciate the fact that you're holding the issue and trying to move it forward. And I know that's a hard thing, like has been mentioned by other people. So I'm grateful that you're doing it. I'm grateful that you're thinking it through. And I'm really very, very happy to see that food is rising in terms of the attention you guys are giving it. And the option of the self-operated system really strikes me in an intellectual way, in an academic way, in a research-based way, as a very smart thing to do. And I'm glad that that's resonating with you at this point. I think one of the things that always kind of vexes us when we're trying to do this hard work that was just mentioned is that there are challenges to doing it. That's absolutely true. There are many challenges to doing anything that's worth doing. I think one of the things that I would stress here for you is the opportunity that it also presents. So the Food Studies program focuses attention on food and learning through food. I would really encourage you guys to think about this as a really unique opportunity, the self-operated model, to be an educational moment, to teach through food, not just to feed kids, but to teach kids through food and teach kids the importance of food, help them become food citizens through the self-operated process, which will be better for their bodies and better for their minds. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Joey, followed by Martina.
Good evening. I'm Joey Carlson. I'm a 4J parent, and I'm here to bring I guess, a couple different points. There are people far more educated and eloquent than I am with the quality of food, the impact on our kids. I don't think any of us disagree with any of that. There are 2 other items that I guess I wanted to bring forth. One intangible, one much more tangible. Currently with the Sodexo contract, our schools can't use their kitchens for any community engagement events. So like when we have events at the school, if we are going to provide food, we have to do that elsewhere, bring it to the school. We can't enter that space because it's leased by Sodexo. So, you know, goal number 4 for the board is community engagement. By doing the self-operating, one of the side benefits, the intangible, is that we then have access to that space and we can meet that engagement goal that we have. The other one is much more tangible. As Deb mentioned, over 1.8 million meals were served last year. With the data that's been presented, the current contract escalation would be at, $1.94 per meal reimbursed at a Sodexo. In the estimated cost per meal in the co-op, Bend is executing their meals at $1.30 per meal. That's 64 cents a meal. 1.8 million meals, that's $1.17 million less attributed to the cost of per meal. Now, the objective of the food services is a break even. What does that mean? Maybe all that money does get spent, but it gets spent on the priorities established by this community and by this district. So much like all the rest of us consumers, we can spend the money in the ways and the areas that make sense to us and meet our priorities rather than that of a contractor that may be spending it on their profit. So I advocate for everything that we can do to self-perform, and I think there's a benefit both to our kids, to our community, and to supporting what we choose to. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Martina, followed by Angela McDonald.
Hi, thank you, members of the board. My name is Dr. Martina Shabram. I'm a community health educator for Planned Parenthood of Southwestern Oregon, and I want to be very clear that my experience as an educator for Planned Parenthood informs my perspective on this topic, but that I am speaking for myself and not on behalf of PPSO. So through my work, I am invited into classrooms throughout 4J to support teachers in meeting their ORS requirements for sexuality education. Oregon's criteria is really clear, and our lessons are medically accurate and comprehensive. They include discussion of abstinence as one method of sexual protection, but not, and this is quoting from the statute, to the exclusion of other material. And recently, a number of 4J students and parents came to me because they are concerned about the presence of a local crisis pregnancy center, Dove Medical, in health classes at Roosevelt Middle School, South Eugene High School, and Churchill High School. Dove Medical offers an abstinence-only curriculum called Stop and Think, which my students tell me encourages them to make the right choice, but only offers information about the choice to abstain. There's ample evidence that abstinence-only curriculum actually increases rates of unintended teen pregnancy and STIs. Moreover, Dove Medical is a faith-based organization. They say this clearly on their donor-facing webpage, dovefriends.org, where they state that they are a faith-based organization and include a statement of principle that says that Dove Medical is an outreach ministry of Jesus Christ through his church and is committed to presenting the gospel of our Lord to women with crisis pregnancies. So I myself am a person of faith, and I don't think that Dove Medical's religious affiliation is inherently bad, but as a health educator, I question bringing religious organizations into a science class. Religious belief is not science, and public high school science classes are not appropriate places for ministry. So I would ask us to consider whether they are the right choice for our schools, and I would hope that 4J would be able to commit to ensuring that health classes do not conclude speakers whose materials are informed by religion and not scientific accuracy.
Thanks, Martina. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Angela McDonald. I am a parent here in 4J. In our schools, we see a variety of kids coming from a big variety of backgrounds, and many have stresses in their home lives which can be brought to schools. And that's why in schools we strive to level the playing field so that all students are given the same opportunities to learn, no matter their background, and they're given the tools that they need. Of course, schools do what they can, but I believe at least most of our schools are doing a very good job of this. But our food and nutrition services is one place that I believe really needs improvement. Students who rely on food from schools are getting inadequate nutrition, and that sets them up for an inadequate education. The schools have done a good job recognizing that students need to be fed in order to learn, but we need to look at the quality of the food provided. To do this, we need to be able to take back control of our food systems from the contractor that we are currently using. Families who can afford to send a nutritious meal to school with their kids are already given a leg up compared to the students whose families cannot afford to do so. And students have shown, or studies have shown over and over again, that the importance of balanced nutrition, or the importance of balanced nutrition for overall health. If students are getting inadequate nutrition, they're far more likely to miss more school days due to illness, thus putting them behind their peers and reducing their education. Studies have also showed that increased sugar intake increases behavioral problems. We all see that our kids are very difficult when we feed them large amounts of refined sugars. And many schools across the country and our district are experiencing a rise in behavioral issues. So let's see here, we can't change the nutrition that children receive at home, but we can at least provide children with adequate nutrition while they're in school. So I urge you to consider breaking the unhealthy cycle of putting our children's nutrition in contract with companies who can decide what to feed them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Plato Wellman. I'm a local parent, and I, like a lot of people here, highly support transitioning to a self-operation model, from highly processed heat and serve food to scratch-made meals using fresh whole ingredients. I have 2 kids, and one kid goes to the village school that uses this model, and one goes to Churchill, and Churchill's a great school, but they also are on the Sodexo model. And it is so profound to see the difference. Everybody has already talked about all those nutritional aspects. I experienced that through the difference of lunch programs. So I think that we really should look into using healthy school lunches. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I think using healthy, locally sourced ingredients will be beneficial to our students' health. I think it'll be beneficial to our local economy. I think a self-operation model will empower local employees in our schools to serve our students the food that they deserve to eat. We are what we eat, so let's serve our students good food. Thank you so much for what you do. I know it's a challenge, but the benefits are more than worth it.
Thanks, Plato. I appreciate it. Ari Gold, followed by Frank Bender.
Thank you, and thanks for hearing me. I'll try and be quick. I know we're short on time. Many people have said better things than I can and will, so I would like to just reiterate a bit and maybe say a new thing. First of all, to dream, once we get this better nutrition system in place where we cook our own food, because it's always good to cook your own food, we could connect with local farms, and it's just amazing pedagogically what we might be able to do. As someone who was on the board for many years of the Local Food Connection, which is a conference at LCC, as well as ex-owner of a local farm-to-table restaurant, it's really amazing what pedagogically and economically we could do. Second, this is kind of ripe for a before-after study. Again, I'm dreaming here, but imagine if we just take a little bit of data now, and then after we switch, we take more data, we could really show something now that we're at the crux of a decision. And lastly, and I'll be here done before the 30-second bell, there are many things in this district and world that are socioeconomically unfair, to nobody's fault. But here's one that we can fix. You know, we send our kids with lunch every day. We have the opportunity to do that. Not everybody does, but we can fix this one socioeconomic inequality. So thank you.
School Board, my name is Frank Bender, and I'm a community member and a professor at the University of Oregon with over 20 years of experience of working and consulting with school districts across the country, including here in Eugene. I have a PhD in educational research policy and leadership from the University of Oregon. I want to commend you guys for taking on this very difficult topic, because there are choices that have to be made, both financial and what's in store for our students. What I'd like to share with you tonight is how the choice in terms of food services can impact student learning and the academic outcomes for your student body. I'm not going to go over the aspects of what ingredients look like, because you have heard that a great deal. But what I would like to talk about are some other statistics that exist. In terms of school outcomes, I'm not sure if you're aware that over close to 40% of all students consume half of their calories from schools during their daily intake. That means we have a substantial commitment to our students in terms of their intake and then how it impacts their learning. When we look at nutrition, we also find that good nutrition improves student outcomes and comprehension and performance. It reduces behavioral challenges. It allows teachers to meet student needs on a regular and daily basis, not only in the classroom, but at the school and district level. Teachers are now better able to meet the Common Core standards that are required by mandate. Poor nutrition over time can impact the following in terms of academics: low vocabulary and reading skills, increase of fatigue, shortened attention span, slower rate of learning, decrease in work capacity, resistance to infections, impacting intellectual performance, and other correlates to neurodevelopmental disorders like ADD and ADHD. I know you are probably thinking about investment, because that's what this is, an investment in people, right? So if we want to look at that investment, how much does absenteeism cost the school district each year? How much does the supports for mental health, counseling, and special education services cost the district each year? Nutritional supports and the aspects that I've outlined will denote that those aspects will be mitigated with proper nutritional supports. Was that my time?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
My name is Annika Jacobson, and I'm in 4th grade. And I wanted to talk about how gross the food is. Well, the food is very processed. Everything is there. And there is, like, when you get the food, it's like I've gotten it like once or twice, and it's really gross. And food is as important as math and science and art and reading. And I would like to eat something way better, but I don't get hot lunch in school. I get cold lunch, even though the hot lunch is cold. And my lunch is hot. So
why didn't you say what you would like to eat? Do you have something?
I would like to eat like village school has. it has way better food than other schools, and it's not fair at all.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Annika, I appreciate it.
I use the name Jennifer Doe because in some ways, without their consent, I do represent so many that you have not heard from in the last couple sessions. And I'd like to start with a quote that we hear often where I am: "The choices you make you. Integrity means doing the right thing, even when no one is watching." And we say these words day after day, and they're on our color posters of our public schools. I don't represent 4J any longer, but I worked for them for 14 years, but I've worked in over 15 school districts for almost 20 years. And maybe I'm not angry with you. Maybe when I reflect more deeply and honestly, I'm angry with myself because I have watched this decline slowly happening, and it's not just food, it's on our public schools across the board. But I am angry with myself, and my son, as a single parent, had to eat Sodexo for many years. It's a lifetime, it's more than a school lifetime sentence. A school lifetime sentence would be 12 years, but we're running on 20, 21. I haven't checked my facts on that lately, I've just lived them. But the power of the words "up until now" can set us free. The power of the words "up until now." As a professional educator and a behavior modificationist, I coined that phrase, I urge you to quit knowingly and intentionally poisoning our children. Anxiety is through the roof. It's an epidemic in this country and locally. I've never heard of such an intense time in our history. And teachers have to manage behavior, sometimes 6 or 8, what we call high flyers. I have seen classrooms this year that have made me want to quit the profession that I love.
Good evening, Board. We have an extra person with us that we are going to introduce to you tonight, and her name is Jill Quadros, and she will answer some questions for you probably that you come up with. So there will be a portion in here that will explain a couple of, maybe not a response to the audience, but something that came up. But we also talked about it earlier, and in this slideshow, you'll get a couple of answers to some things that the crowd brought up today.
Good evening. So I'm Holly Langen with Support Services, and that includes nutrition services. We're here because you have been considering 3 options for renewing the method that we will use to manage nutrition services. One of those, well, the first option was to renew our Sodexo contract for another year. The second option was to go out for an RFP, so select perhaps another contractor. And the third option was bringing it in-house and doing self-operation. The third option, the last time we were talking about it, the board had some questions and wanted more details. So this presentation is primarily to address those questions, but of course we'll answer questions about any of those options. I guess will you click? You want me to click? Are you ready? I can click and talk. So just to frame what self-operation would be for, in terms of our self-operation goals, the primary goal is to take control of our program because we need that information in order to create our future goals and be able to talk about some of those menu options that we've been discussing the last couple of years, talk about ingredients, look at the data and understand better where production or scratch cooking might make sense. So remember, these changes would be incremental. We would not overnight have a production kitchen. We wouldn't have school gardens that we're harvesting from tomorrow. We wouldn't immediately be doing scratch cooking. The first year is really just about understanding our program and getting that base foundation in place in order to be able to provide the information needed to consider all of those things in our program. I want to talk about each of the things that we've been considering in terms of the infrastructure that we would need to build out in order to self-operate, including the items on this slide, but I'll go through each of these on the next slides. Our program structure and staffing, so staffing is one of the primary considerations in order to have what we need to manage the program. What that means for us is, right now, our model is that Sodexo provides 3 managers, and the next 2 slides, obviously, they'll show the structure of that. Our transition is to essentially reassign those positions to 4J staff. We already provide all the staffing in the kitchen, so the primary staffing issue is around the management at the Ed Center level. So this is just a model to show what that looks like. So all of the blue boxes are already 4J staff, again, including all of our kitchen teams. The green boxes are the Sodexo positions that are currently signed on site to us, which includes a general manager and then an operations manager, which is the person that is generally out in our schools supporting our kitchens, looking at equipment, safety, operations. And then the other position in the last year is a registered dietitian, and so he's providing the menu development and nutritional support, and he's also working with the special dietary restrictions for students with allergies and other issues. So our goal would be to move those 3 boxes over into our team, and this model is really reflective of many of the models in the state for other organizations that self-op. The hope and goal of this is to have 4 people being able to better respond to our school staff in order to create regional hubs, essentially. So really create people that are out in the schools by region and really knowing what's happening at the school level at a more informed way. So after we have staffing, we need to have menus. In our review of what self-op would take, the USDA has a long list of software that we can use. The purpose of using the USDA identified software is that it does the nutritional analysis to make sure that we're serving the components that are required in such a program, and that allows us to have an additional 6 cents reimbursement on our reimbursement rates. So there was an initiative this year by Sodexo to initiate a certain kind of software. We would start with looking at that. We would certainly look at some others, but that would decrease the transition on our staff. The other major consideration that we've looked at is summer. So, can we do this July 1st? Because summer menu is usually on a 1-week cycle, which means you do the same menu every week, and most of that food is simply prepared, and we already own most of that inventory, so we don't see summer as a major obstacle to getting this going. So food is, of course, in addition to staffing, the major thing that we would need to consider about how we would do that. So we've been talking a lot with our partner districts, including Bend, Bethel, and Springfield. They, including 22 districts around us, have a purchasing group. So what that means is they work together to get bids, and so they have done all the procurement. We wouldn't have to go individually go buy every item. It's in this cooperative agreement. And this allows us to move quickly on getting our menus developed and identifying vendors and suppliers. Most of them are telling me that they're using about 80% of their purchasing is within the cooperative, and it leaves that other 20% for local procurement. We'd like to expand and look at that. We'd like to continue all the local procurement we're doing and keep growing that. So that would be certainly one of our initial goals. I provided this timeline just to show that we're right in the timeline for when they are renewing that contract for next year. So they're just looking at all the products they want to get bids on. So that's what's happening now, and then the bids are coming in April, so we aren't behind yet. So smallwares are the trays and utensils, the apple slicers, the knives, all those things that you basically outfit your kitchen with. So we have a standard list of what a kitchen should look like. They vary by the kitchen size, so we're prepared to be able to quickly get a couple of quotes and choose the best approach for our budget. And we are assured by different vendors that the supply is there, and we'd be able to get that purchase in and get the inventory into our kitchens this summer. We would have, of course, prioritized summer school locations. There are many other considerations. This is a complicated and large effort, and just it's a lot of details. So we know that there are many other considerations. We've listed a few of them that we've been thinking about. The one that I really want to stress is engagement is something that we need to improve on no matter what the outcome tonight is. It is certainly a goal of ours to grow and work on our advisory committees. That's the Wellness Advisory Committee and the Menu Advisory Committee. Those are important, and they are one of our key focus for making sure that we include people's perspective in our community and what they want and prioritizing what we do in our nutrition program. So also, I think it's just worth sharing and documenting. We are doing a lot of things already that Sodexo doesn't do for us. It's the daily work and operations of this program. So two of the big things that might have felt overwhelming, but since we're doing them, it's no change to us, and that's managing all the staff in our program already, so all the payroll, the substitutes, all of that. We are already doing that work. And then also, the free and reduced eligibility is something that we already do, so that's not something that's going to fall apart. Families will still submit applications, and their applications will get reviewed, and they will get letters. That's already something in place. That's not a system we need to learn. It's already there. So budget, the big question. This is one of the areas that Sid was mentioning that we want to clarify. So one of the reasons why it's really hard for us to talk about budget is that we are under a model where we pay by meal served. What that means is we pay $1.94 for a meal equivalent. So I won't go into all the formulas, but a breakfast is different than a lunch, that's different than a milk or an a la carte item. So $1.94 is a bundled price that we pay Sodexo. You can think of it that way. And that bundle are all those things that we've been talking about, and why I've been putting them in those buckets. The bundle pays for the 3 managers. It pays for the food. It pays for the menu software. Yeah, it pays for the smallwares. So that's why those are the buckets we're choosing to talk about, is how would we replace those services? How would we pay for them? So comparing it and trying to figure out how to pull apart that bundle is why we chose to look at that food cooperative that our partner districts are using. So when you're looking at Bethel and Bend, they are paying $1.19 to $1.30 for their food cost only. So that's why that difference there. I just want to be really clear. It's not that we're paying the $1.94 for the same thing that they're paying $1.19 for. It doesn't include the management, the technology, and those things. So the best that we can do is say, well, we know the cost of, we can figure out staffing, we can figure out smallwares, we can figure out technology. So that's what we've done. So pulling those costs out and using that plate cost, because we'd be buying the same food supplies as our partner districts, that leaves us what we think would be a break-even budget. So that's why our goal would be to break even. We don't imagine saving money, especially the first year. And any money that we have, we want to invest into our program and invest in the ingredients. We want to invest it in partnerships with our local vendors. I should say one more thing about that, though. The money that we already spend is $2.7 million. So that's what we're using as our goal, so that we're not spending more than what we're already doing. So we would try to achieve all of those costs using that money that already exists and is already being expended. So of course, there are startup costs. So these are the one-time costs that we're expecting. We have to buy all of the smallwares all at once versus, you replace as things wear out. We do have to buy the initial technology and have the training and all of those things. So none of those feel overwhelming to us. We have people that we would like to work with in the first couple of months while we're getting staff recruited. That does take time to have those managers in place. So the April to June time, while we're getting that staffing in place, we have some experts that are willing to help us with that, including our partner district staff. So that is the summary of what we could do under option 3. We think that we could grow this program. Again, just to be really clear, it's just infrastructure building the first year. There isn't an overwhelming first change. I think the first year people would be like, what all has changed? But I think at the end we would have all the data. We could come back and say, these are the options, these are the the savings or the funds that we have, and we could prioritize how to reinvest those in our program. And also just to be really clear, because we also appreciate the bond money and the $2 million possibility to reinvest in our kitchen. So we haven't come up with a specific list. We definitely are working on those, but it looks different under each of these options. And so that's why we have been hesitant to throw out what we want to spend it on until we know where this goes first. Did I miss anything?
Dr. Balderas?
Questions?
So, I know that there's probably a lot of questions from the board, but I know the board's also received quite a few emails this past couple weeks with regards to, past few weeks actually, for regards to nutrition services. We want to make sure that we manage expectations. I think that's something that's been said a few times in terms of where we want to go if the board chooses to go this route. And working to our community aspirations is something we want to do with our community if the board chooses to go self-operations. But again, it's one of those things that coming July, we're gonna work very, very hard to try and again start a program if the board chooses to do that. But again, the managing of community expectations is something that we're going to be doing with our partners, including people that maybe spoke here tonight, if that's what the board chooses to do. But we hope to be we will be extremely transparent in terms of what we can and cannot do. Very transparent in terms of what we can and cannot do, especially this first year when if the board chooses to go this route, to be able to have our own kitchens. And I think Sodexo's been with us for 16 years, and they've been a good partner for us for 16 years, and it's something where we appreciate the work that's been done. And again, but I think as you've heard from the community and what I've heard from the board, this is something that my staff feel confident that they can do as well.
This is so great. I just appreciate having the options, and I'd like to second what Dr. Balderas said. Sodexo's been a good partner. We've worked well with them, and we've looked at going out and getting different bids before. So in my mind, as I looked at these options, really getting additional bids didn't seem like a possibility, but I appreciate staff for all the work that you've done, because I know there were a lot of questions. To me, this is a fundamental social justice issue, and it's been something I've been so passionate about. We can do better for our kids, and we should do better for our kids. We've talked extensively through the bond process, through the years. I think about it a little bit like turning a ship. We've been looking at what we could do and how do we turn it, and we can't turn it maybe as fast as we wanted to, but we've been taking steps to do that. We talked a lot about controlling our own destiny, and to me, really, the only way for us to control our own destiny is the self-operation. So I'd like to make a motion that we as a school district move to self-operation.
I'd second that.
I second that. I'll second it. So it's been moved by Anne Marie and seconded by Eileen to move forward with the school district to doing self-operation of our nutrition services.
Jim.
Well, I've got to admit that over the years, I've been one of the people that kept saying, how do we make sure that we can afford this? Where's the predictability in terms of the budget? But I've come to the conclusion, and I'll use an example. For years, I've coached little kids, and I can remember, this has been a number of years ago, coaching a little girl's soccer team. And it was near the end of the season in the fall, and it was raining, and it was cold. And here's this little girl, probably in the 3rd grade, with a pair of shorts and a T-shirt, and out there shivering. We have an opportunity to feed those kids in our district who are out there shivering, and that's why I'm in support of this.
Evangelina.
So I want to just say, I don't want to cough. What we do on the board is so important, and children are our #1 priority. And that's how
that's how I look at food and nutrition. It's protecting the health of our children. And one of the ways, I tell my daughter every single day, one of the ways that I show my love to her is through the food that I make for her. I make her lunches every day. And, it's a conscious choice. It's nutrition is a conscious choice, and it's education. And healthy foods instill early, positive, and repeated experiences with food and nutrition that will last our kids for a lifetime. And when children consume almost, different percentages have been stated tonight, 40% or 50%. I've read that, when children consume almost 50% of their daily calories at school, it is imperative that we feed them the best that we can. For low-income and our most vulnerable children, it is extremely important, especially when those are 2 meals that they're getting. Maybe they're the only 2 meals that they're getting. Our homeless population, our homeless rate is increasing, and our kids are coming to schools with so many issues. So these are the main meals of their day. And I want, with better nutrition, I want to make sure that our kids have better learning and memory capabilities, improved concentration, overall health improvements, better behavior, which leads to better academics and academic performance, which impacts, it's a long time away, but it impacts their graduation rates. Better future habits to make better choices in their lives. So what I want for my daughter and what I make sure happens for my child, I want for every single child in this district. So I want better academic outcomes for our kids, which is part of better nutrition. So, and we can do it. And in some of, I've been listening listening to people that have come and talked to me, and I've read almost every single one of the emails sent. And I'm part of a few groups in the community. But one of the things that stood out to me is, I don't feed my child corn dogs, but she gets hot dogs. But I always look, and I've taught my child how to look at the nutritional aspect or the ingredients in what we eat. And the hot dog that I buy has 8 ingredients in it. And I looked at some of the nutritional aspects of the hot dogs that our kids get. And I want to make sure that our kids can pronounce the ingredients as much as possible. Preservatives is a way of life in this day and age, but I want to make sure that our food has minimal ingredients in them and not up to 18 or 20. So, thanks.
Mary? Well, I want to, before I talk about the motion specifically, I want to just reiterate some of the points I made, because I think that there's a multitude of issues that we need to address in the longer term. And I think part of it is this contract issue with Sodexo and looking at self-operation. But I think 2 weeks ago I talked about the snacks that we give kids. I think they're important, but I think they interfere with some of our nutrition that the kids get. I was in a kindergarten class today, and the kids get snacks right after lunch. And they were Ritz crackers today. They're not always healthy, but I think it's important to give kids food, but if it's interfering with their lunch, there's something to think about. And I've said this before too, there's not enough time to eat. A half hour for kids is just not enough. I've had enough meals at elementary schools that it's just not enough. So again, this is a big issue that I think we need to think about systemically throughout the district. And then just the social and the family status, that, we can't do much about what kids get on the weekend at home. This is where they spend the majority of their time. So if they're at home on the weekend and they're getting goldfish, 3 times a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, there's not a lot that we can do. So there has to be an education component. And I think the kids can be a vital part of that. But I just don't want us to think, if we do go to self-operations, that on July 1 we're going to have unicorns and rainbows, because this is a first step in a long process of changing people's attitudes about food. But a couple questions real quickly. So we would still be purchasing USDA commodities through this different consortium?
I decided how to answer that. We will be buying USDA commodities. They just don't go through a consortium, so they're separate.
Okay.
Purchase process.
Again, I don't think.
That won't change.
I think this is the first step if we do go to self-operation, but we're not going to have unicorns and rainbows on July 1, should we make this decision. I just want to under-promise and over-deliver, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Unicorns and rainbows, meaning village school food.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm not disparaging village school food, but it is a different situation. It's a charter school. They have 2 part-time employees, as I understand it, and the rest is all volunteers, which we cannot do in our regular 4J schools because we have a labor contract with OSEA. So there are some, so anyway, let me make a couple more comments and then I'll wrap it up here. I can see you got your camera going on me.
It's good.
But I do want to say, Sodexo has been a good partner, and I appreciate the efforts in the past, and it's not to disparage them, but I think we have an opportunity to perhaps do something different and do something better for our students. I want to thank the staff right in front of us for your work on this, because it's been very helpful. This is a complicated issue, and I appreciate, the diligence with which you've presented this information. And then I want to thank the nutrition staff, and I see a lot of lunch ladies out there in the audience. I appreciate what you do for kids. As I said, I do hang out in a lot of elementary schools and have a chance to observe your work. And I think you're at Holt, right? Yes, okay, that's what I thought. I've seen you there. Because I think what bothers me is when I hear people in the community say, oh, school food's awful and terrible, and it's yucky and it sucks. And wait, these are our employees that are making this food, and they're there because they care about kids. And so let's be careful in our criticism of our school lunches. Let's see. I've talked about my concerns, and like I said, I want to keep this all in perspective. This is a first step in a process, under promise but over deliver. But I do intend to support the motion. Thank you.
Great. I know Eileen's feeling sick. Eileen, if you want to speak, let me know, because you've been a big champion of this. But I have Judy up next.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been at this as long as many of you, but I am really excited because this was something that is very near and dear to my heart, and it feels like the stars have aligned, and I think we're all sort of seeing this as an opportunity and a possibility together rather than the barriers from, and I really appreciated your testimony tonight too, you guys that are working online, and what the experience is like in the kitchens, and it just feels like the groups that are in nutrition all the way through are very supportive of taking this huge first step. And I have to manage my own expectations, but I'm working on it because I realize making any kind of change like this is really huge. But I just feel like it's really the right thing to do. I think someone said it really reflects our community's values, and it is a social justice issue, and there's all sorts of health fits into some of the behavior stuff. There's so many possibilities of gain, with this. And that being said, I did have a specific question about the software we're purchasing, you're considering purchasing. Can I ask a question too? And I wondered if it was, I really don't know if we purchase it, how long of a commitment? I mean, is it worth really looking at options, other places like Bend or Bethel, to see what they're using, since they're sort of already down the road doing what we want to do? So I think it could be an important decision in this first step.
Yeah, so there are about, I don't know, what was that list, 30? There's many choices. So absolutely, our intention was to talk with Bethel and Bend, because they're in the same cooperative, and our menus might look similar. So if we can use a similar software, then it'll be a lot easier to talk and collaborate. So I'm not sure what they're using yet, so that will definitely be conversation. Mm-hmm. I will introduce her, but then maybe she could tell you more about what she's been doing the last couple of months with us. So Jill Quadros joined us in October. Her title is Program Management Assistant, and I asked to implement this position because we have about 100 staff in our kitchens, and we really felt like we needed to have more presence of our 4J staff in our kitchens. So that's what she gets to do every day. So, tell you.
So I think a little bit of my responsibility was also to monitor. 4J having a contract required that someone do the monitoring of the Sodexo implementation. And so I was combination of assisting Holly with her staff and then doing the monitoring. As this has shifted over time, it became apparent to me that, okay, I also would need to answer at some point in the future, can we take this on as a self-operating operation? And I believe firmly that we can successfully do this for you. The staff that spoke tonight, the frontline staff, are very committed. They are the backbone of this program, and I do feel very confident in saying that we can successfully operate this program.
Great. Evangelina.
I have a question before we vote. And knowing that, it's been stated, we are still going to be using federal USDA guidelines for our food, and what that means, especially as they're changing or they have changed. But can you tell me, Holly, a little bit more about, because this board has wanted for the last year to reduce, if not eliminate, the harmful 7. And while I understand we can't eliminate all of them because one of them is bleached flour, but trans fats, hydrogenated oils, high fructose corn syrup, hormones and antibiotics in our foods, processed and artificial sweeteners, and artificial preservatives in addition to bleached flour. How many of those can we actually reduce of those harmful 7 as we're bringing the food service, as we are getting ready to vote to bring the food service in-house?
Do you have a crystal ball?
ODE, states it's very difficult for us to be able to purchase without some of these products. So, this is the Oregon Department of Education. We will work toward, again, those aspirations that I think have been discussed this evening. So I think having a baseline within, and, reading the tea leaves, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but you can see where we're going with this one, right? So,
you can count,
right? It's trying to figure out how do we get to our own baseline to be able to determine where we want to go, working with our community partners and organizations to try and again do the best we can for our kids and our community. That's been stated. So,
great. How about if you good? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
So that is unanimous. We're going to go with self-op. Great. We'll just do this, even though I'd like to applaud. Thank you for everything that you did. Holly, I just want to say you've been a real champion for doing the research and doing the things that we needed to make a decision, and I can't thank you enough.
Hi, my name is Rowan Madar. I am from Camas Ridge Elementary School, and when I got up this morning, I wasn't planning on being here talking to you about school lunches, but it's an important matter because those are the lunches that I eat every day that I go to school. And school lunches are bad. They taste bad, processed food, they're poor quality, and they don't make us feel good, like stomach aches and diarrhea. For example, like on Friday, we have cheeseburgers. Well, the meat, it tastes like chalk, and the cheese looks like plastic, and it's chewy. And then we have green beans that are canned, and they're slimy. And at home, when we get canned green beans, which we don't very often, they aren't slimy. They're nice and crunchy and stuff. But at school, they're slimy. And then there's corn dogs, which aren't usually healthy. But at 7-Eleven, you could get a pretty good corn dog. But at school, they're not good corn dogs like 7-Eleven has. So why are the corn dogs at school worse than the ones at 7-Eleven? And I've noticed that students, including me, we don't eat because we don't like the food there. And so if you don't eat, then you're hungry. And if you're hungry, then you can't concentrate. And then you can't do your best in school. So if the point of school lunch is to feed the kids, and the kids don't eat it because it's not good, then school lunch then school lunches are failing to serve their purpose. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.